All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kabbalah Café, a beautiful holiday weekend. Can we say that? It's a holiday weekend. Yeah, MLK Day weekend. I don't know if it's a holiday. I think it's a holiday. Public holiday edition of Kabbalah Café. Today, the topic is more than life itself. And I mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. Today, we're going to go a little bit deep. That's how we like it. Sometimes it's like, easier, what I would say, pop Kabbalah. Today, it's going to be a little bit deeper. But my goal is that everyone fully grasp the concepts because they are really elegant and really beautiful. Here we go. Inspired by David Lynch. Okay, so here we go. Let's jump in. This is the Twin Peaks of Kabbalah class. All right, so here we go. So over the last few months, and it's literally been a few months, as we've explored this text, which is called The Power of Return. I've called it Knowing Your Soul, because that's really what it's about, is better understanding our soul. But the book itself is called Power of Return. As we've been exploring this book over the last few months, we have come to a few conclusions. The reason why I'm starting this way is because we're going to go way beyond the conclusions that we've established up until now. But let's first establish what we've established. What we've established so far is that explaining, utilizing the language of the most famous, hey Scott, good morning, the most famous Jewish prayer, the Shema prayer, right? Utilizing that as a frame of reference, we have described a form of love of God that is driven by a certain meditation. So when you think about meditation and you think about, what meditation means and what it looks like and what it does, you have many different forms of meditation. You have, most famously Eastern meditation and, meditations associated with other, what I would call, other and various different spiritual paths. You also have a very unique concept and construct of Jewish meditation. Jewish meditation is always, well, I can't say always, but it's typically about thinking about something until you produce a certain emotion. That would be my working definition of what Jewish meditation is. Again, it's focusing your mind on something, in other words, on an idea, on a concept, focusing your mind intently in a certain space until to the point that it produces an actual emotion in your heart, with the understanding that an emotion is, thank you, is that?
Yes, for you.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that. With the understanding that when our emotion is triggered, or more than triggered, that has a negative connotation. When our emotions are activated, we are more likely to behave in a certain way. So I think maybe we should start almost from the reverse. If we want to act in a certain way, it's important to feel that way. And to feel that way, it's important to think ourselves into that way of thinking. And so the way Kabbalah understands the Shema prayer, right? We begin with an opening line, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Hear, O Israel. The Lord is our God, the Lord is one. That's the opening line. That is not just an opening line, like, oh, I know that line. Yeah, I know that line by heart. Not just a line, it's actually the meditation. It is the meditation that then leads to the very next paragraph, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. In other words, if you shema correctly, I'm using that as a verb suddenly, right? If you shema it, you will love it. In other words, if you're shema, and by the way, what does shema mean? Listen. Who says listen? When do you say listen? When you have something very important to say. Otherwise, you would just say it. You say, hold on, listen carefully. I have something very important to, it's almost like we tell ourselves, listen up. Because we're not speaking to anyone else. It's like, hey, Shema Yisrael. It's like some dude named Yisrael that we're telling, listen up, Yisrael. Who is the Shema Yisrael? We're telling ourselves in the context of the prayer. We're telling ourselves almost to open ourselves up, to open up our mind, to open up our ears, to open up our mind, to open up our awareness, our heart, our soul. Every atom of our being should be open to the message of the Shema. And when we meditate properly and think about what the Shema really means, then automatically, as a direct consequence, then we will love Hashem. And so what we've been describing, as I watch my son and brother-in-law walk down the path through the mirror, right? So as we say the Shema, here's the interesting thing. You know, sometimes you wonder, why is the Siddur, why is the prayer book so big? What's all these pages? And the reality is, because if I told you, snap your fingers and meditate, you're like, can't do that cold. I have to have a bit of a warm-up. Hence the pages in the Siddur. That's the warm-up. It's the warm-up. You're talking about all these concepts. You enter into states of gratitude with the morning blessings. You enter in states of acknowledgement and praise with Psukei de Zimra. You enter in discussion about the angels and the mystical dimensions and the blessings preceding the Shema. And then, hopefully, if all goes well, you are ready on every level, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, physically ready for the meditation of the Shema. And then the Shema becomes that first line, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That line becomes the meditation. And then afterwards, automatically, what we feel is the love, and we say the words, we say those words, and you shall love the Lord your God with the requisite love. That's the goal. If you want to know what is the ideal form of prayer, it's a person kind of like working on themselves, working through themselves, working against the inertia, by the way, of why am I doing this? How do I get through this? These are a bunch of pages. I didn't write these words. How do I feel? How am I meant to feel this? It's about working against that, working through that, connecting with it slowly, page by page, until we're ready to have that experience. But that now, are we always going to get it right? No. Are we going to get it right most of the time? Maybe even not. I'm not trying to be negative or cynical, but we should at least know what the goal is, how it was designed. Whether or not we're going to have that experience, it's one thing. It's almost like if you ask Mozart, so when you created the music, or David Lynch, because he's on my mind this morning, like, why did you create, that, right? Mozart, I'll stick with Mozart now. What was your intention? What did you want the listener, the audience to feel? You ask an artist, what emotion do you want someone who's looking at your art? What do you want them to feel? Because that's what you want. You want to create a feeling. You want to create a feeling. You feel something. You're the artist. You feel something. And all you want is how do I take a piece of my heart and share it with someone else? Share the gift of my feeling with another human being. I mean, I can do it through words. Words are going to take an emotion. You know what words do? Words take an emotion and intellectualize it. So now I understand how you're feeling. I don't feel how you're feeling. How do I convey an emotion? How do I move my heart into your heart? Music, right? Dance, art. These are things that are emotional. Tefillah, the Talmud asks, what is avodah shebelev? What does it mean to serve God with your heart? Talmud answers, tefillah, prayer. Prayer is not an experience of thinking about something exclusively. Prayer is not an experience of saying a bunch of words. Prayer is primarily about feeling. It's about an experience in which we start to feel something amazing and something profound. And so it's a journey. And so up until now, over the last 2, maybe even 3, maybe even more months, every week we've been kind of drilling down another angle on this. We've been working at another angle of the meditation that brings to love. And I need to tell you at the outset over here, good morning, good to see you. There are different dimensions of love. And in the Shema, we talk about 3 levels of love: with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. In the Hebrew, b'chol levavcha, uv'chol nafshecha, uv'chol modecha. In our text, we're going to talk about 2 levels of love. We're going to join the first 2 together and then keep the third as the second category. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right, brackets. We're going to put the first 2 in one bracket and the last one in its own bracket. Loving with all your heart and soul is 1, and all your might is, and all your might is 2. That's the second one. So up until now, literally up until now, we've covered 1 form of love. Good morning. Great to see you. What is the love? Listen to this. Everything that I say now, if you've been following the last number of weeks, this should sound familiar. If not, again, not again, but my goal is to make this as straightforward as possible so that we can then move on next level up. The first level of love is born of a simple meditation, profound, but simple. I am here. I exist. The world around me exists, meaning I exist, you exist, this exists. This is all real. But what is the reality of everything around me? What is the reality of the trees, the buildings, the ground, the earth, the water, the stream, the mountains? What is that reality? All of it is Hashem. It's all God. Because I know I can look inside my own life, and I know that if God forbid, the divine energy were to be pulled out, I would not exist anymore. So whatever does exist, it's because it has divine energy. So now, this is all part of the meditation. When I look at the world, I don't just see a tree. I don't just see a mountain. I don't just see a stream. I don't just see a building. I don't just see a person. I don't just see myself. What do I see? Divine energy that is powering everything. I'm able now with my mind's eye, maybe not with my physical eye, but with my mind's eye, in other words, my understanding, my verstand, my comprehension, I'm able to perceive, not see, but perceive that everything that exists, beginning with myself, because that is my starting point. My eyes are always starting from inside myself and moving outward. I start from myself, mi basari ex-eloka, from my own flesh. I then perceive God. So I start from within. I perceive that everything that exists, everything that is only because God makes it be. It's only here as God powers it to be. And if God were not to be here, if God were not to power this, if God were not to invest, this would not exist. That's the first meditation. What this leads to is a love, an appreciation, and a gratitude. And what's the gratitude? The gratitude is, and the appreciation is, the love is, wow, everything that I know, everything that I love, everything that I am, everything that I could ever be is all powered by God. How do I not love God? Right? All of the great happiness, all of the great joys, all of the great pleasures, all of the great beauty in the world is all powered by God. This evokes a love of God that is described in scripture as loving Hashem ki hu chayecha, because he is literally your life. Do you love your life? Again, I know I keep on saying again, even though I'm saying this for the first time. All right. When it comes to self-love, a healthy human being has a healthy amount of self-love that is intuitive, that is organic, that is innate, that is intrinsic and inherent. It's not a learned, I had to learn to love myself. Most people, I would say, again, in a healthy state of being, a person has a natural, a very large dose of self-love. Intuitive self-love comes along this meditation and says, what is it that we really love about self? What do we really love? What you love, your bone, your muscle, your tissue. I'm going to run out of anatomical knowledge here very quickly. What do you love? What do you love? Your lungs? What do you love? Your plasma? Or is that only in TVs? It's a thing. All right. Like, what do you love? No, I love being alive. What is being alive? What is that? What is life? What is consciousness? What is it? A brain? My brother-in-law, who you may have seen just walking now before, he's visiting from London, England. And he told me yesterday, his mother just passed away, like a few weeks ago. And told me that the entire family, they knew she was going to pass. Everyone was there with her in the house, in the room where she was. And they were all together. They were kind of watching and waiting, just being there with her. And, she would stop breathing and they would think like, no, and then she would start again. It was like a process. And then She stopped breathing, and that was it. And his line, he said this Friday night at the Shabbat table, he said, when you're there in that experience, you can't but believe in God. What is this mystery of life? One moment, person's alive. The next moment, they're not alive. What is it? The same tissue, the same muscle, the same organs, the same, everything's there. All the hardware is there. The brain is there, the heart is there, everything. It's not working there. It doesn't work. This is mystery. Life. What is life? Might as well just call it God. Cut to the chase. Spiritual energy. Right. This life force energy. All right. Let's just make it easy. We'll call it God. No, not the old guy sitting on a throne zapping people. That was always a mistake of what God is. Right? Life. So loving Hashem kihu chayecha, loving God because He is your life means you love your life, you enjoy being alive. Great. Who do you think that is? You? How is that you? You made yourself? You're in charge of this? Yeah. What does that even look like? What does that even mean? Of course it's not me. It's Hashem. It's God flowing through me. And as long as God flows through me, I'm alive. I'm ticking. And the moment that doesn't happen, it's over. That's the meditation. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad means that God is one. What does that mean, God is one? Everything that you see is integrated completely and seamlessly with a divine, godly life force. Because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be here. If it exists, God is with it. And that leads to love. As we said over the last few weeks, on a practical level, that can wake us up to begin prioritizing our lives. One second. I have within me both the physical and spiritual dynamics. Where should I place more attention? Where should I invest in? Should I invest in the physical or the meaningful, the spiritual, the godly? In my relationships, how do I relate to others? Exclusively through the lower physical dynamics or through higher spiritual dynamics? When I relate to the world, when I relate to food, we spoke about this last week. Do I look at it as just a bagel or divine energy wrapped in a deliciously crispy exterior and soft interior, right? But that is able to power my soul and enable me to fulfill my purpose. It's a deeper way of looking at life. This is all of this represents the outcome or the implication, meaning the bechein, the therefore of this meditation. The meditation is about God's oneness, how God is integrated inherently with everything that exists, or else it wouldn't exist. How God is the very matrix of life. That's the meditation. That leads to a sense of love and appreciation. So what do I love? I love the divine. I love that energy. I love God. Because without that, what do we have? We don't even know what it looks like otherwise. Like, what does it look like when we aren't? I don't know. That's a bizarre sight, right? That's a bizarre thing to think about. So of course we love God. And we realize that everything we've ever loved was only possible because of God. Anything you've ever loved, any beauty you've ever seen, any joy you've ever had is only because of God. And then you realize, well, if that's the case, how much time should I spend on the things that don't really exist on their own? Like, that doesn't even have its own energy, vitality, life, reality. It's only powered by something else. So why would I jump the secondary in front of the primary? That seems very foolish, very silly, very short-sighted, right? What am I gonna place Gashmiut before ruchniut, physicality before spirituality. That makes no sense. So then it's a reorientation of life. And there we have now the three dimensions of this experience: the mind, the heart, and the action. But all of this is just a recap. And today we go further, because all of this represents the first two levels of love. What is b'chol madech? So I need to say this. Everything we've said up until now is selfish. Selfish. Ego. I love God. Why? Because I am alive. Oh, okay. All right. So it's about you. Now, one second. Before I continue, I think it's very important to understand that when you study Kabbalah, whatever you're studying is the focal point. And when you contrast one idea with another idea, and then show how the second idea transcends the first idea, it doesn't mean that the first idea, therefore, is worthless, is meaningless. It just means that for the sake of contrast, we need to create contrast. We need to create a little bit of separation. So I am not putting down or denigrating or minimizing the first level of love. On the contrary, it is so romantic and so beautiful. However, it's predicated on self. It's predicated on me. It's very much I love you for how you make me feel. I love you, God, for giving me life. I love you, God, for giving everyone here life. I love you, God, for giving the planet life. I love you, God, for creating beauty, joy, happiness, song, art, film. I love you, God, for creating all of the beautiful things, all of the amazing experiences that I've ever had. That's why I love you. You hear the ego there? Yesh mi she'ohev. There is an I who is doing the love. When I say I love you, I come two words before you. I love you. I come first, you come last. So even in the experience of love, even in the peak, in the height of that love, I can recognize that there's still a little bit of self, still a trace of the ego, still not only a trace, very much an ego. Somebody says, this is something that we've talked about many times in these classes, not necessarily recently, but in the past, when it comes to exploring the element, the sphira, the energy of chesed. Chesed is pure giving, as opposed to love, as is typically understood, at least in a Western way, that love sometimes is self-oriented, right? I love how you make me feel. Or even something as seemingly benign as I love chocolate. You don't love chocolate. You don't actually love chocolate. You enjoy the taste of chocolate. You don't love chocolate. You don't destroy the things you love. You don't consume the things you love. If someone said, I love you, therefore I will destroy you, you'd be like, that's a little twisted. That's a little weird. Say, I love chocolate. You don't love chocolate. You love yourself. And you enjoy chocolate. And so you're going to eat chocolate. It's not the same as loving chocolate. In our vernacular, we're so like, we just we throw around love in such a casual way that it's like, it sometimes takes on literally the opposite meaning. And so when a person says, God, I love you for giving me life. Whoa, stop. What do you love? You love God or you love yourself? Slow it down. Slow that down right there. I love Hashem because God is my life. I love my life and my life is really God. I love God. That was the whole first meditation, right? Think about your self-love. Recognize that yourself is really God. Therefore, you love God. Aha, so you love yourself. You love God vis-a-vis yourself. Can a human being reach a state? Now, you might say like this. We are human beings and we are limited. And there's no way a human being can ever love purely without any self-interest. What does it even look like? That I love you and it's not about me? What does that mean? What does that actually look like? Okay. Maybe this is why I have to be over 40 to study this stuff. So what does it mean? What does it mean? This is what we call love b'chol modecha. Loving, as the English translation typically is, with all your might. That doesn't really tell us anything. All your might? Like, what is that? All your might. I love God with all my might. Like, what is that? I don't know. It means it's a type of love that is infinite, unlimited, and untethered to your self-experience. So again, I'm going to rewind this one more time, and then we're going to move forward. Most love, if we really think about it, is self-oriented, is selfish love, with my favorite story about fish love, which I don't mind sharing again, because we got some new folks in the room. What is fish love? Fish love is the story of, it was in a yeshiva, and one of the teachers, one of the rabbis, goes out to the cafeteria at lunch and sees one of the students eating lunch with gusto. And he says, "Are you enjoying lunch?" And the yeshiva student says, "Yes." They had serving fish. "I love fish." He says, "You don't love fish. If you loved fish, you would be taking care of fish, feeding fish, right? You would be there for the fish. You wouldn't be consuming the fish. If your sense of love of fish is I will kill you and eat you, right? That is what I call selfish love. That is not selfless love. It's selfish love. Okay? That's selfish love. It's like the love of chocolate. By the way, there's nothing wrong if you enjoy eating fish or chocolate. Zero judgment. B'te avon. Please enjoy. I'm just saying you might want to rethink the word love, because it might make us start thinking that love is all about self. You know, one of the interesting things in Kabbalah is that you suddenly see things in a completely different light. Like, for example, the story that the Midrash tells, or the Talmud tells, that by Sinai, God lifted the mountain, Mount Sinai, over the heads of the Jewish people and said, if you'll accept the Torah, great. If not, you'll be buried here. You know that story? You know that wonderful classic Talmudic tale that's great for young and old alike, right? We were gathered at Mount Sinai. God lifts the mountain over our heads, right? Can you imagine that? Wow, it got really dark here. What's going on? Right? There's like a mountain, right? And then God says, so you want the Torah? Because if not, bye-bye. And so he said, yes, we will take the Torah. And the Talmud says, Mikan moda'a rabba la'oraita. This becomes a huge moda'a, disclaimer, asterisk.
Formative information.
Yeah, but it's in the context of disclaimer. It becomes a huge asterisk. Sure, we accepted the Torah, but was it really willingly? The Talmud says it was only generations later, 1,500 years later, in the times of Purim, when the Jewish people were at risk, maybe 1,000 years later, whatever the timeline is, when the Jewish people were at risk of, God forbid, complete annihilation, right? Haman wanted to destroy the Jewish people. And the Jewish people for a full year sat with that, and they remained faithful to Judaism. It was only when they could have easily said, oh, we're also Persian, Jewish? Nah, you got the wrong guy, right? They could have easily walked away from the whole Judaism thing and Jewish identity thing, but they didn't. That is when they finally embraced it on their own. They were not forced into it. On the contrary, they were being pushed almost out of it. And they said, no, we're staying strong. That's when they fully accepted and fully consented to this thing called Judaism and Torah and Mitzvot. That's all Talmudic. Comes along Kabbalah and says the following. What does it mean that God lifted a mountain over their heads? Did that really happen? Number one. Number two, the Jewish people, if you look at the way the Midrash describes that episode of the mountain over their heads, they had already said that we're ready, we're in. They had already said, we'll receive the Torah. The last minute, God does the whole mountain over the head thing. Why? They had already consented. They had already agreed. They had already said, God's like, do you want some tablets? Like, how much do they cost? Free. We'll take 2. That's the joke. Get it? Right? So like they had already, it's a joke. They had already accepted. They had already consented to this thing called Torah. So why the need for the mountain? So Kabbalah explains something amazing. Something that's like mind-blowing. What was the mountain? Not a literal mountain. Mountain is a euphemism in Kabbalah for love. Why? Because emotions are very big. Intellect is very calm, it's cerebral. In Kabbalah, it's called cold, as opposed to emotions which are hot, right? So intellect, intelligence, intellect, academia is cold, it's calculated, it's calm, it's objective. It's not subjective, it's objective, ideally, right? Figure out you're analyzing something, it's kind of flat. The landscape of emotions, big swings. It's up and it's down. You know what it looks like? A mountain range, up and down, up and down. I mean, I don't know what a brainwave scan looks like, but I've seen a heart thing. I don't even know. I'm sure that's called literally a heart thing, because I'm sure that's the actual name, right? It measures the heart. What's it called?
The electrocardiogram.
There you go. Yes. That, right? Up and down and up and down and up and down. Emotions look like a mountain range. Now, I know it goes up and down very quickly, but if you kind of stretch it out a little bit, it would look like a nice, rocky mountains right there. So Kabbalah says, what happened at Sinai? Here's what happened at Sinai. What happened at Sinai was that there was a mountain over their heads. God had shown so much love for the Jewish people, starting from the Exodus. Well, and ending with that was right. 10 plagues. God extracting a nation in the language of the prophet from the bowels of another nation. God taking us out with pride and with confidence, taking us out of a condition of slavery. And imagine a first date. First date. Guy says, pick up at 7. Great. She's waiting outside. Limo comes up. We're going to a private airport, private jet. Tonight, we're going to Paris. Maybe I have to start earlier in the day. Sandrine, help me out here. How long is the flight? It is good. What time do you get there if you leave at 7?
Next morning.
Oh, the next morning. Okay. All right.
So you've done that.
Breakfast in Paris. Not a bad date.
No.
Not a bad date. Then the next day you go to, I don't know, you go to Venice. And then the next day you go to, can you imagine? And after after a month of this, well, you're exhausted, yeah, but also, no, but after a month of this, imagine if the guy asked her, so, do you love me? How do you say no? But then you ask yourself the question, 1 second. What do you love? Do you love the guy? Or do you love the experiences? Do you love him? Or do you love what he's doing for you? Those are 2 different things. What do you really love? If you were to take away all of the glitz and the glamour, all of the trap, take away all of that, do you love the person? Or do you just love Yehu Chayecha because you get all this stuff? Why do we love God? Because we get to be alive? Or do we love God for God? That's the question. Up until now, it's got to be 2 or 3 months of classes. We've been discussing again and again and again the first level of love and the first meditation, which is all about I am alive. I'm so grateful to be alive. Where does that come from? It comes from God. I love God. But if we slow that down, what we're really saying is not that I love God. I love what God does for me. It's 2 different things. 2 different things. I love God vis-a-vis God giving me life. I love God vis-a-vis God giving life to all of this. I don't want all this to go away. What? I want life, creation, existence to come to a crashing end? No. I don't want to lose all of this. I love all of this. And all of this is God. I love God. Oh, great. Do you love God or do you love what God gives to you? Do you love God or do you love going or do you love being whisked away to Paris? That means waking up in the morning. Just so you know. Do I really love God or do I love the fact that I get to be here? That I get to be here with all of you, that I get to be here with all of you, with all of this. That's the question. What do I really love?
Isn't that how they tested Job? They took it all away.
Yeah.
That was the big question. Take it all away.
Take it all away. Can you still love God?
Keep that.
He had a lot of questions.
He did.
He had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Kabbalah says, not that we shouldn't want to be here, not that we shouldn't appreciate life, not that we shouldn't love God on this level, but Kabbalah says, let's go further. Let's go deeper. Can we dig inside and find a place of love that transcends ego, that transcends self-interest, a truly selfless love? Can we find that love? The Torah says that love, Kabbalah says that love is the love of B'chol Ma'odecha. How do we get there? How do we get there? That love of with all your might. What does that mean? And how do we get there? That's what we begin with chapter 3 in our text. Chapter 3 in our text is exploring the next frontier of love. A love that's not based on what I get or who I am. A love that's not based on I'm here, I love myself, therefore, because I love myself, that's my starting point, I therefore love God who's making me exist. That's still a totally self-oriented. That's me as the center of the universe. And God's value is vis-a-vis my center, right? The love that I have for God is relative to God keeping me at the center of my universe. And so it would be valid to ask, is it even possible to love selflessly, altruistically? Is it even possible to love without self-interest? Is it really possible to love someone else for who they are and what they are, completely irrespective of what I get from them?
Mother loves the child.
Yeah.
So your answer is it's possible.
We're doing it as humans.
Good.
Naturally.
Good.
Mother is a child. Father is a love.
So let's explore that. What does that look like? What does that mean? So here's what it looks like and here's what it means. In order to understand this, I want to now pause the story and we're going to write a book. And the book is going to have 2 vantage points. You ever see these books? There's 2 characters and every chapter has, a different character who's speaking. Their take, or maybe 2 halves of the book. You have one half is this character, the other half is that character. If not, it's okay. But that's what we're about to do. I'm going to speak about this now from 2 perspectives. God's perspective and our perspective. Let's go. God's perspective. First thing we know about God is that he is our creator. Right? But understand that that is the self-oriented understanding of God. I exist. The starting point is I exist, me, ego, I, me. How am I here? God made me. Oh, there's a God. Oh, I know I can't make myself. So how am I here? God. Oh, okay, so I believe in God. But God only exists, again, vis-a-vis me. Then you continue to think, as Kabbalah describes and really pushes us to think. One second. Is God limited to this activity called creation? Imagine you see a piece of art You walk into a museum, it's a beautiful piece of art, and you're totally taken by the art. Like it challenges you, it thrills you, it makes you question everything. You're just totally enraptured by this art. Okay. Think to yourself, wow, I mean, who made this? Because you know that it didn't make itself, right? I mean, until AI takes over, right? You know, it didn't make itself. It's like, wow, who made this? And you find out the name of the artist. Like, wow, this artist is unbelievable. I want to see what else this artist made. And then you fall in love with the artist. I mean, not like romantically, but then you're like, wow, I love this artist. Like this artist, wow. We can recognize, if we take a half a step back, that in that experience, we're not actually relating to the artist. We're not actually relating to the person who made the art, but the artist in the role of creator of art. Does that make sense? Let me frame it another way with a question. The artist, yeah? Is all they do create art? Is that the entirety of their being? Do you know them based on their work? Can you know everything about them based on what they've created? Do they have any mysteries, any selfhood beyond their creation? Probably, right? What we get when we reverse engineer God is only the tip of the iceberg of one thing that God did, which is create our universe. So we start off here. God created this. Say, aha. No, sorry. We start with this. This exists. How does it exist? It's a piece of art. There's a creator. There's an artist. Wow. I love the artist. The artist is amazing. 1 second. You've now taken a person and reduced them to an activity of creating art. Do you know their hopes, their dreams, their loves, right? Who they are, what their real story is, or do you only know about them the one thing they reveal to you and hand it over to you? You see the difference? You can't know the totality of someone's being. Somebody writes a short story. They say, read my short story. Do you know their essence? All you know is what they created. When we talk about God, using the vantage point of our created reality, it's very clear what we're saying. We know God based on what we see that God made. Kabbalah says, if we can't fully grasp this, at least let us acknowledge this. God exists beyond the role as creator. God is more than creator. God is God. Does that make sense? The activity of creation is something God did. But God exists beyond the role of creator.
Surely that's not earth-shattering news, no?
So the question is, when we relate to God, who are we relating to? The God that creates or the God that lies beyond the entire activity of creation? And what are we therefore seeking? Are we seeking more life, energy, beauty, love in the matrix of creation? Or are we seeking a connection with God beyond anything that we might receive, i.e., a truly selfless love that is about connecting with the essence, irrespective of how it makes me feel? There's a medrash that says that there were a group of people that were invited to the king's palace. They walk in. And when they walk into the king's palace, there are all these ministers and high-ranking officials there. And one of the people of the group says, oh, I'm connecting with this one. I'm connecting with this one. I'm connecting with that one. There was a pikach echad. There's one wise person who says, Ana nasiv malka. I choose the king. I don't want anyone else. I don't want the minister of finance. I don't want the minister of education. I don't want the minister of agriculture. I don't want the minister of taxes, right? All I want is God. What does that mean? What does that mean? It's very simple. When a person approaches God from a self place, then your interest is, what do I get? What do you get? Well, what do you want? Money, honor, fame. What do you want? So then you'll seek that in your understanding of God. It's a truly wise person, and not just wise intellectually, but deep person, who says, what I want more than anything else is a relationship with the essence of God, a space where it's not about me getting anything. It's about being able to connect the source. The Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, used to say, Ich will ze gar nicht. I don't want anything. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. I don't want your Gan Eden. Ich will nicht dein Olam Haba. I don't want your world to come. Ich will nar as dich allein. I only want you. That's it. When you study the Alter Rebbe's teachings, books, Torah, look at the Torah on the parasha of the week and the daily Torah on the weekly Torah portion. It's almost every discourse, every mimer, he says the same thing. All of creation is powered by a reflection of a reflection of a reflection of a reflection of divine radiance. All of this, tip of the iceberg, tip of the iceberg. Ha'ara ba'alma, a mere ray and reflection. If you remember the Kabbalistic charts, it's Malchut, which is the lowest of the Sfirot. It's Malchut of this, of that, of the other, that then filters through with Tzimtzum, Achar Tzimtzum, contraction after contraction, until it powers our reality. Fragment, we get a fragment of light. That's what we're excited about. That's getting us excited. Oh, I love the fragment. It's easy to love the fragment.
It's a big fragment.
Number one, it's a big fragment. It's an important fragment, but it's a self-serving fragment. Of course, I love the fragment. Everything that I know, everything that I love, everything that I am is powered by the fragment. Of course, I love the fragment. It's weird to actually call light fragment, because I don't know, I think it's mixing metaphors, but whatever, that's what we're doing right now. Array of a reflection of a reflection of a reflection. That's what I love. Why do I love that? Because I get to be. Truest love of God is not based on the light. It's not directed toward the light, the thin amount of light that filters through to power us. The real love is to the essence. Etzem bilti eskala, it says in Kabbalah. The essence doesn't shine. It's not shining. What's shining is not the essence. If you see it, it's not the core, because the core you can't see. How much do you want the core? Do you want the core even though it means it's not about you? Even though it means you don't get anything? Even though it means you might have to undo yourself? How far are you willing to go to love the core? How far? How selfless are you? We've talked about this many times. Fire. Fire is the only, fire is unfortunately in the news a lot in the last few weeks. Fire is the only physical substance that reflects this truth. Fire is the only thing in existence that doesn't want to be here. It doesn't want to be here. All it wants to do is go up. You take a candle, you tilt it sideways, it goes up. It always goes up. It doesn't want to be here. You have to force it into being. What other thing do you have to force into being? You have to physically strike it into existence, to compel it into existence.
feed it to make sure.
And you know what fire is really trying to do? It's trying to get out of here. But you keep on putting stuff to it. And so it says, you know what? If you want to hold me back, then guess what's going to happen? I'm going to destroy both me and you until we're both done. I don't want to be here. And if you want to hold me back, I will first eliminate you so that I can eliminate myself. Fire has no ego. You think fire is destructive, fire is burning down things. No, fire doesn't want to be here. And its nature of not being here is applied to whatever it touches so that it makes that also, guess what? Not be here. Fire doesn't want to be. Everything else, the contrast is water. Water very much wants to be. Water always goes to the lowest place. If there's a crack in your pool, your water is not staying in your pool. It's going down. Why not? Why? Can't it just be satisfied where it is? Poke a hole in your cup. Down. Water always flows down. Fire always flows up. Complete contrast. Yesh, ayin. Existence, non-existence. Now let's look at the story from the human perspective. Just to summarize the divine perspective. God assumes the role of creator. That's not the totality of God. To reduce God to something he did is to say that, like a child saying, my parent only exists vis-a-vis me. And Sivan's like, yes. Right? My father has no life outside of the relationship with me. Has no, I don't mean life. I mean reality. The only reality of this person is that he fathered me. That's it. That's it. There's more. So God is more than creator. God is more than Boré. God is more than just a creator. God is God. That's on God's side, our side. Kabbalah teaches that we have 5 layers of the soul, 5 dimensions. Chamisha Shemot Nikrala. She is called by 5 names. She meaning the soul. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. 5 names. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama are the dimensions of the soul that are considered to be inside. That are considered to be captured by the body, invested within the body. Chaya is transcendent. Yechida is beyond transcendent. Yechida is the essence of the soul. The essence. You know, it's kind of like when you don't know what to call something, you call it the essence. Because then you don't have to describe it. Because what is it? It's the core. It's the essence, right? You don't describe it by its qualities, because anything that's in the world of qualities, the world of qualities is the world of light, is the world of revelation, right? That's the world of qualities. Essence is not the world of qualities. Essence is the world of just is. So we have 5 layers of the soul, and all of them are present inside the soul. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, the acronym of which is Naran. Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Reshno, Naran. Naran is the part of the soul that's invested in your body, in your consciousness. Specifically, Nefesh is biological life. Ruach is emotional life. Neshama is intellectual life. So your biological function is powered by your soul. Which part of your soul runs your body, keeps you humming and ticking? Nefesh. Ruach provides a layer on top of that, your emotional landscape. Neshama provides a layer on top of that, your intellectual prowess. Nefesh, biological life. Ruach, emotional life. Neshama, intellectual life. Chaya, beyond intellect. faith, things that transcend the logical.
So I have a question, but I don't know what the question is.
We haven't gotten yet to Yechida, but go. Yeah.
I'm not even sure to answer. The importance of the Shema is unquestionable. I mean, the words that follow the portion you said, I mean, we wear it on our armor and we say it in the road, the streets. I mean, oneness is what it is about. And I've no doubt that we are just one of God's creation on this planet, the entire universe. I guess the question I'm still struggling with, which maybe shouldn't be asked, is why? Why? I understand it's for our souls and we're learning and this is, but why? What is the why?
Why
Why
are we here?
not here? Why are our souls like so? Yeah, why? Oh, I understand why we're going through these lessons here. But what's the ultimate why? Like, because it can't be for God's sake, because He doesn't need us. So it's for us. So then maybe that's not a question I'm going to ask, or we're not going to know the answer.
First of all, it's a question that we're definitely meant to ask. And it's a question that has many different answers on many different levels. In other words, if we identify which level of the soul or which level of the divine we're dealing with, you'll have an answer that fits that level. On a different level, that answer is invalid, and there's another answer. So depending on where we're at in ourselves, in our relationship with God, there will be different answers. One answer is no, God does need us to accomplish certain things in the world. God created a world that is broken, and God put us here to fix it. So it's less about us learning lessons and more about us being facilitators, right? We are all.
But why did He create a world that was broken when He didn't have
Well,
it?
He wanted to see if we can get it done.
Born being all
So that's for
It's boring being all alone. Exactly.
Yeah.
God wanted to see if it's like the same reason why you might give a puzzle to a child or a crossword thing or a Sudoku, whatever it is. It's like, okay, can we figure it out? Can we get it? Can we get it right? First of all, people like to challenge. We like to challenge ourselves also with that, right? We give ourselves challenges. So that's on one level. On another level, it's about the lessons that we learn, like you said. It's about the growth that happens. But what we're really getting to today is that beyond everything else, it's about experiencing a connection, Yechida to Yachid, from the core of the soul, the Yechida, the highest, the fifth, the quintessence, quint is 5, the quintessence of the soul, all the way, which is the Yechida, the singular point, the point of singularity of the soul, with the one and only essence of God, Yachid, not Echad. Echad is one, Yachid is only one, singular, a different dimension. So getting back to this idea of the 5 dimensions of the soul, Yechida is not a dimension of the soul, like one of the 5. If you keep on climbing the ladder, you'll hit level 5. No, it's not a level. It's the core, it's the essence of the soul, which means it is the very selfhood of the soul that is beyond any qualities of the soul. It's the core identity of the soul. This is who I am, or as a soul, this is what I am. Beyond any expression, beyond any needs, beyond any wants, it's just the core of who I am. And the core of a soul is inherently and intrinsically connected with the core of God. And so it's a very simple equation. As long as we exist in the mind space of the lower dimensions of the soul, we will always be thinking about God on the lower dimensions of the divine. And the conversation will be, here's what I need. You provide it for me, ideally. I mean, it could also be even worse. But ideally it's, I need, you provide, I therefore love you. It's a conversation of a lower order, right? Here's what I need. I'm feeling myself. I look at you as the provider for the things that I need. And all of this was the first meditation that I recapped at the beginning of the class that we've covered the last 3 months. It's all the first meditation. The first meditation is I have needs, starting with the need to exist. And the need to exist is powered by you, the creator of my reality. I love you, my creator. So that's your needy part, loving God's giving part. When we get in touch with our essence, with the essence of the soul, it's no longer about what I need. It's about who I am. And who I am is inherently connected with the essence of who God is. Because what is the soul if not a piece of God himself? And so when I get in touch with the core of my soul, it has one aim, and not a selfish aim. So this is also selfish. You want to get to the king himself. It's not selfish. It's identity. It's who I am. It's who my soul is. It's what my soul is. My soul as a piece of God by nature is drawn toward the source. Not the source because of what I get. Oh, what do I get? My door prize. What do I get? About connecting with truth, connecting with source, connecting almost with self, if we could be so bold to say that. It's the yechida of the soul connected with the yachid of God. It's the singular to the singular. It's the essence to the essence. That's what we call the love b'chol modecha. And that's why our sages tell us that the love of b'chol modecha is the love that can lead, that can inspire a person to acts of mesirat nefesh, self-sacrifice. Because if you love God because he's your life, you're not giving up your life. You love God because he's your life. The foundation of that is I get to live. I'm alive. I only love you because you're making me live. The moment loving you means I don't live, I don't love you anymore. I love you, so I'm deprived. I don't love you. If my love was always about what you give to me, and now suddenly the tables have turned, and I'm called upon to love you to the point of my deprivation, no, that's not the bargain we crafted. The bargain we crafted was, I get to love you because you get to give to me. That was the first type of love. Loving Hashem, kihu chayecha, because he's your life, cannot be a love that transcends life. It's literally predicated on life. It can't transcend the foundation.
What's beautiful about that is like in the Tanakh, when people worship Baal, they sacrifice, they kill, but our God wants us to live in their honor instead of killing them. That's good.
So here we have this idea that this love that was so beautiful, that still is so beautiful, is ultimately predicated on my existence. That love will never get to a point where I value the love more than my existence. I only loved because of my existence. How could I value the love more than life itself? That's today's title, more than life itself. Can I love more than life itself? I can only love more than life itself if the love is not a love that is selfish, if it's not a love that is about me getting to be more alive. And so the b'chol modecha love, which is the mesirat nefesh love, the self-sacrifice love. And you're right. Typically, we're not called upon to actually give up our lives. The question, though, is, do I love God more than my life, more than life itself? If I seek to answer yes, not from a place of ego, but from a place of truth, to really experience a love that transcends any self-interest, it must emanate from my yechida, and it must be directed toward the yachid, from my essence to the divine essence. It's not about the lower needy part of my soul, and it's not about the lower giving part of God. It's about essence to essence. That is where this higher dimension of love, that is the sandbox in which this higher level of love plays. Lest you think that it's inaccessible, I will say that even within human relationships, it's accessible. Even within human relationships, there is the possibility to deepen and mature and really just like completely transform a love to the point that it is no longer self-interest oriented. It's no longer about what I get from the other, but it's about purely connecting with the other on the deepest of levels. It's not about the part of them that feeds my needs, the part of me that gets my needs fed. It's about purely connecting with that other person. Yechida to yechida, essence to essence, core to core. How does this look? What does this look like? It looks like someone showing up for someone without any expectation or even any desire for anything in return. It's about purely being there for someone. It's the love, as was mentioned, ideally, all right, in a healthy state, of a parent to a child. It's not about what I get from the child, right? I think one of the challenges in popular Jewish vernacular is the idea of nachas. Like, we get nachas. It's never about getting. Okay, it's also about getting. That's not what that's a lower level. A lower level. If I hug my child when they hit the home run in Little League tighter than on a normal basis, the subtle message I'm giving them is that my experience of love for you is anchored in my lower self that likes getting excited to your lower self that provides the excitement. And the message is subtly, or the question is, I'm not going to say message, the question is, are we feeding the belief within the child that my core loves your core unconditionally, without any expectation? It's not that you get a greater reward, a greater smile, a greater joy when you come back with the A as opposed to the C. And it's really hard because we operate in the lower spaces all the time. But we can operate in the higher spaces. What does it look like? It looks like a person who's there for someone else, even when they have nothing to give them. It looks like pure love of a child when the child is not shining their most brilliant light. It looks like, I think about, remember that book / movie, The Notebook?
Yes.
About that husband taking care of the wife, and she doesn't even recognize him. And he's not getting anything in the traditional sense, right? But he's there for her because he loves her, because they're connected. So of course he's showing up there every day. And of course, every day he tells the story of their relationship. And of course, it's the most emotional thing in the world. Because when you see that type of connection, you realize that everything else is so superficial. I love you because you flew me to Paris. That's what I love. I love getting stuff. How hard was that? 3 levels of love, 2 categories. Either we love God because of what we get, or we love God to be connected, and not for selfish reasons, but to literally connect. Yeah.
And therefore, because we're all connected. Man and woman.
Correct. Yes. On a practical takeaway.
Yeah.
Everyone is created in the image of God. Everyone has a yechida, like we have the yechida, the quintessence of the soul. Applying this correct in human relations means that I can find a space within myself to love the other, even when I'm not getting something from them, even when they have nothing to give me. But it's loving the core, loving the divine within them. That's a hard thing, and that's a transformative thing. Homework this week. Shema, we have the opportunity to say Shema multiple times a day. One time this week, try something of these meditations. Whether it's the lower level meditation, loving God because he's your life, and loving what you get, or whether it's the higher level, thinking about how God is beyond everything, beyond even the name and the role of creator. God's beyond creator, not just creator. God only exists to feed me. Wow. God is a cafeteria person. God, I love God. You know what God does? He's always slopping mashed potatoes in my tray. Of course I love God. Who wouldn't love? I love mashed potatoes. I love God. When you think about it in those terms, it seems so basic. Basic is good. It's basic. So this week, go basic or try to go big. We'll learn more inside next week. We're going to read this inside. It's hard to read it inside. Happy animated voices. It's hard to read it inside because these are things that we don't typically articulate. Who talks about this? We live in a world where the notion of love, there's a story which I love, the woman, Hannah Sharfstein, related, who decades ago came to the Rebbe. She was dating, trying to find a husband. She's complaining about all the boys she's dating. The Rebbe says, you know what the problem is? You have a notion of love that's based on romance novels. That's where you're hitting a challenge. That's the challenge. Is love about what I get? It's hard. It's hard to say that. It's hard also to say the other thing. It's not about what you get. Because then so I should love someone although I don't get anything? That means I could love anybody. Like, what does that even mean for love? We'll explore as the weeks roll on. Thank you for joining me this morning for Kabbalah Café.
You had today.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining Kabbalah Café. A few quick announcements. I have no paraphernalia, so the good news is it's probably going to be shorter announcements. Number one, this week, let me try to center my head. This week is a standard week, which means that Tuesday night we have Torah studies. Why am I pausing? I don't even know what's happening this week. We have normal classes this week as it rolls on. Check the website for local listings. But next week, I want to point out two things. Number one, next Monday night, so it will be the 27th of January. January 27th at 7:30 p.m., we have the author of a book called Make Peace, exploring the Rebbe's perspective on the hope for a better and a happier future, a peaceful future for the Middle East. The author of that book, Alicia Pearl, will be coming to do a book discussion, a lecture, and a book signing. 7:30 p.m. It's all about Israel and about practical steps that Israel can take in order to secure itself and create peace for itself and for the surrounding region. Monday, January 27th, Make Peace. Wednesday, January 29th, we're launching our brand new 6-week Talmud course. If you've studied Talmud before, you know how amazing it is. If you've never studied Talmud before, this is a great opportunity to jump in. It's called Decoding the Talmud. I teach it at 12 noon, high noon, and at 7:30 p.m. Join for one, join for both. It'll be amazing. We are going to be studying Arvei Pesachim, which is a section of the Talmud about Passover, and learning about the history, the methodology, the logic, the genius of Talmud as we actually study Talmud. This is going to be an unprecedented course. Never taught anything like this before. It's going to be thrilling beyond imagination. You are going to love it. Scott, I saw you're signed up for it, which I'm very excited. I feel like after we close out, I need to play for everyone a clip. Can we do that?
Huh?
Or everyone's running. Everyone's running, right?
The trailer?
No.
1 minute clip that you played on.
No, not that clip. Okay, one second. Arvei Pesachim. I'm going to Google it now. YouTube, Arvei Pesachim with Rabbeinu David Rishis Cold Seltzer. Here we go. This is it.
I want you to know something. The past few Shabbosim, I was sitting in the birds in Muncie, and I told people
Wait, what's that?
same thing. So obviously it's coming from my heart. I said I want Arvei Pesachim with a Rabbeinu David, Rishis Cold Seltzer, and I just want to check out of life. Thursday nights, I want gala, tons of it, and that's it. I'm done with everything. It's the first time I told her, Shom Zacher, okay, I thought that was my mood then. For the next few weeks, her boy side. And I told the boss from the Alpo this week, my dream is Arvei Tzachim, a Rabbeinu David, a whole thing of ice, you know those ice from Costco, ice makers, seltzer, polar cans, no styrofoam cups, the plastic cups, and just sitting there, da 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 da. A casa de cama, ya 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 ya, ay ya 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 ya. Sorry. He's sitting there harving the sugis over there, brachis, and then Yoni Pesach has got Adam. I promise you, if I had a chance not to do anything in life now, I have no diets, I want to check out. Just check out of life. The Gemara having talking. God bless you all, and just remember, the bottom line is, it's the Harvanian learning. Blood, sweat, tears.
Wow. He must go to an ENT.
Isn't that guy epic? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna check out of life. Arvei Psachim. That's it, my friends. This is it. This is it. We're gonna be all in on Talmud starting in 2 weeks. By the way, you think that that's where that ends? You think that's where that YouTube